Millionaire walked in unannounced, and what she saw the black cleaner doing changed her life forever. The building stood in silence when Evelyn Crane stepped through the glass doors without warning. Her heels made no sound on the polished marble, and she preferred it that way. She liked catching people off guard. As she entered the executive hallway, her eyes narrowed at the sight of a lone figure inside her office, Malcolm Reed, the black janitor she barely acknowledged. Malcolm did not notice her at first. He stood over her desk, calmly examining a stack of financial documents she never expected anyone at his level to even understand. His brow was slightly furrowed, as if he saw something deeply wrong. For a moment, Evelyn froze, confused by the scene. Then her confusion hardened into fury. Her voice cut through the room like a blade. She demanded to know what he thought he was doing in a place where he did not belong. Malcolm gently placed the documents down and faced her without a trace of panic. His calmness irritated her even more. She accused him of snooping, stealing, overstepping. He did not argue. He simply held her gaze with a quiet steadiness that made her feel strangely exposed. Evelyn mistook that calm for weakness. She believed this moment was the end of Malcolm Reed's career. What she could not see was that it would become the beginning of her own downfall. Before the rest of this story unfolds, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It helps this channel bring you more stories like this one. Long before Malcolm Reed ever set foot inside Sterling Tower, he learned the meaning of dignity from a woman who scrubbed floors to feed him. His grandmother used to say that honest work had its own shine, and her words stayed with him long after she passed. When bills piled up and his college plans fell apart, Malcolm accepted the night janitor position without hesitation. It was not the job he had dreamed of, but it was the job that kept him grounded while life took a direction he never expected. Each night, he moved through the hallways with a quiet discipline that drew respect from security guards and office staff, who noticed the way he corrected things nobody else cared about. A crooked frame, a leaking faucet, a forgotten lunchbox. Malcolm handled everything with the same gentle, methodical care. Even on days when exhaustion clung to him, he greeted people with a soft politeness that made them feel seen. The world rarely offered him kindness, yet he continued to give it freely. Life had not treated him softly. Medical debts from his grandmother's final years drained every cent he saved. His unfinished degree in accounting was a weight he carried silently, a reminder of a future he once touched. Still, he never resented the mop in his hand. He understood survival better than most people in that building. Harper Miles was the first person inside the company who sensed something unusual about him. She worked in data analysis but often stayed late, creating a strange friendship between two people who never should have crossed paths. Harper noticed how Malcolm asked questions that janitors rarely ask: questions about numbers on screens, audits in progress, sudden shifts in contracts. She once joked that he understood more about financial reports than half the department. Malcolm only smiled, brushing it off. His humility made him easy to overlook, but Harper saw the sharpness behind his quiet eyes. She admired the way he listened, absorbing information without ever intruding. When Evelyn Crane dismissed him or ignored his greetings, Harper felt the sting of embarrassment. She had witnessed countless moments where Evelyn's gaze passed through him as if he did not exist. It was subtle, but the message was always the same. Malcolm belonged to the background, nothing more. Evelyn, on the other hand, carved her path with a kind of precision that left little room for empathy. Her rise from intern to CEO looked impressive on paper, but it came with a trail of people she stepped over without regret. She valued control above all else and believed that authority meant never lowering herself to understand those beneath her. Her leadership created an environment where fear felt normal and mistakes carried far heavier. Punishments for certain employees. Malcolm noticed those patterns long before she noticed him. Every night he swept the same offices where Evelyn signed contracts worth millions. He emptied trash bins next to conversations about mergers, bonuses, and quiet manipulations. People rarely stopped talking when he walked in because they assumed he understood nothing. That assumption became his cover. He began noticing inconsistencies, numbers that shifted too often, files that disappeared, and meetings that ended with nervous whispers. His accounting instincts reacted long before he consciously acknowledged them. Harper occasionally caught him pausing in front of charts displayed on glowing monitors, his expression thoughtful. She never pried, but she sensed the currents pulling at him. Malcolm did not explain that he was building something in silence, gathering small pieces without drawing attention. He understood how dangerous it was to challenge someone like Evelyn Crane. She had the power to erase careers with a single word, and cared very little about who she hurt along the way. Late one evening, after everyone had left, Malcolm stood in the center of the executive floor and felt a strange shift inside himself. 3 years of invisible labor placed him in a position nobody expected it, a vantage point that allowed him to see everything Evelyn tried to hide. The deeper he looked, the clearer the truth became. His role might have seemed insignificant, but it gave him the perfect angle. No one questioned a janitor carrying a trash bag into a meeting room. No one cared what he overheard when he cleaned around busy executives. No one imagined he understood what he was seeing. By the time Evelyn Crane walked in unannounced that morning, Malcolm already knew more about Sterling Holdings than half the board. And although she believed she caught him doing something he should not have done, the reality was far more dangerous for her. He'd been quietly watching for a long time. The morning after Evelyn found Malcolm in her office, tension moved through the building like a cold wind. Employees sensed something was coming, but no one expected how quickly Evelyn Crane would choose to make an example out of one man she believed was beneath her. As soon as she entered the open workspace, she called Malcolm forward with a sharp tone that drew every eye toward them. People froze at their desks. Chairs stopped rolling. Conversations ended mid-sentence. Malcolm walked toward her calmly, holding the same quiet dignity that had always defined him. Evelyn looked at him with a mixture of anger and satisfaction. As though she had finally caught the speck of dust she wanted to wipe away. Her voice rose loud enough for everyone to hear. She accused him of trespassing, stealing information, disrespecting company boundaries. The words hit him like stones, but Malcolm did not bow his head. He listened without defending himself, which only pushed Evelyn to raise her voice even more. She wanted a reaction. She wanted fear. She wanted weakness. Instead, she received silence. Evelyn turned to the watching employees with exaggerated disappointment, claiming that she could not tolerate such behavior in her company. Then she delivered the final blow. She fired Malcolm Reed on the spot, announcing it as if she were removing a stain from a perfect surface. A few people gasped softly, but no one dared to speak. In that moment, Evelyn felt powerful. She believed she had restored control. Malcolm simply nodded. His calm unsettled her more than any argument could have. It was as if he had expected this moment, or had already made peace with it. When he turned to walk away, Evelyn felt a strange flicker of unease, but she pushed it down quickly. She convinced herself that she had done the right thing, that removing Malcolm was a sign of strong leadership. What she did not know was that her decision had just opened a door Malcolm had been waiting 3 long years to walk through. For viewers, the truth becomes clear. Malcolm was not in her office out of curiosity or carelessness. He had been studying the company's financial structure for years, collecting documents that told a story far darker than anyone imagined. Numbers that never matched, accounts that appeared and disappeared, payments that flowed into places they never should have reached. Every night shift gave him time to gather fragments that slowly formed a complete picture of Evelyn Crane's corruption. His firing was not a punishment. It was his release. With the company badge returned and no ties holding him back, Malcolm stepped out of the building with a sense of purpose that had been building quietly inside him. The humiliation Evelyn tried to inflict did not crush him. It ignited him. Her careless decision gave him the freedom to act without fear of losing a job that was already taken away. Malcolm walked into the sunlight with a steady breath and a plan that had been waiting for its moment. He knew exactly what his next steps would be, and he carried years of evidence that could tear down everything Evelyn had worked to protect. Inside Sterling Tower, Evelyn believed she had won. Outside those doors, Malcolm Reed prepared to shake the entire corporation to its core. Malcolm Reed walked out of Crane Industries that afternoon with no job, no security, and no plan for what would happen next. But his steps were steady, almost measured, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Harper Miles followed him to the parking lot, worry carved across her face. "Malcolm, what are we going to do?" she asked softly. He opened the old folder he carried everywhere. Inside were years of quietly collected documents, handwritten notes, copies of erased records, and screenshots of internal messages people thought no one had ever seen. "We are going to finish what we started," Malcolm said, his voice calm but firm. Together, they spent the next several days in Harper's small apartment, a place filled with warmth and the smell of cinnamon candles. They sat at her dining table, sorting through every file. The more Harper read, the more her disbelief turned into anger. "Malcolm, this is huge," she whispered. "This is not just bad behavior. This is a crime against every worker in that building." Malcolm nodded. "No. That is why Evelyn wanted me gone. She felt I would stay silent, but she did not know I spent 3 years watching everything." They organized evidence into folders, sorting by dates, events, and people involved. Malcolm explained each detail with the patience of someone who understood the weight of truth. Harper typed summaries, shaking her head every few minutes. When everything was finally ready, Malcolm started making calls. Not loud, not dramatic calls. Quiet calls. Confident calls. A meeting in a discreet government office. A private conversation with a financial investigator. A message to a journalist who had been trying to expose corporate misconduct for years. He did not tell them everything at once. He only gave them enough to show that the truth existed, and that it was deep. Inside Crane Industries, Evelyn Crane began to feel something she rarely experienced: pressure. On Monday morning, her assistant informed her that a routine audit had been unexpectedly moved up. On Tuesday, a journalist requested an interview about her company's financial structure. On Wednesday, an investor expressed concern about inconsistencies he had recently heard whispers about. Evelyn brushed it all off with a confident laugh. "People are jealous," she said. "Let them talk." But at night, when she sat alone in her penthouse overlooking the city, small doubts crawled into her mind. The timing felt too strange, too precise. During a meeting, she snapped at her managers. During another, she dismissed important warnings with cold arrogance. Her team whispered that she was losing her composure. One afternoon, she stormed into the finance department and demanded to know who had leaked internal documents. Everyone froze. No one answered. Their fear only made her angrier. Harper, still working quietly from the outside, watched the chaos unfold through messages from old coworkers. "She is unraveling," one employee texted her. "People are scared. I think something big is happening." Malcolm simply nodded when Harper showed him the messages. "This is only the beginning." He met with the journalist again, this time handing over a sealed envelope. "You will know what to do with this," Malcolm said. He walked away without looking back. By the end of the week, a storm had formed around Crane Industries, even though Evelyn still believed she could control it. She did not know multiple agencies were now quietly coordinating. She did not know several high-ranking employees had been approached for questioning. She did not know her empire was already cracking from within. Malcolm watched it all unfold from the shadows, calm as ever. The world had not seen anything yet, because what was coming next would shake the entire corporation. Evelyn Crane arrived at Crane Industries on a bright Thursday morning, expecting another day of power, control, and obedience. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor as she walked toward the elevators. Rehearsing a speech she planned to give the board about strength and leadership. But as the elevator doors opened, she froze. Federal officers were already inside the building, dozens of them. They moved through the lobby with purpose, showing badges, speaking firmly, directing employees away from restricted areas. Evelyn's mouth fell open. "What is the meaning of this?" she shouted, stepping forward. An officer showed her a document. "This is an official warrant. We are conducting a full investigation into Crane Industries." The words struck her like a blow. Employees watched from behind pillars and desks, whispering, eyes wide with shock. Some lifted their phones to record the chaos. Security guards tried to calm people, but the building felt like it was trembling. Within minutes, the entire office was filled with agents gathering files, copying hard drives, accessing restricted rooms, and escorting executives for questioning. Evelyn pushed past them, furious. This company is under my control. No one moves without my permission. But no one listened. Her voice that once commanded fear now sounded hollow. By noon, the headlines were everywhere. Crane Industries under federal raid, Evelyn Crane accused of massive corporate misconduct. Whistleblower provides 3 years of evidence. News vans crowded the streets. Helicopters hovered above the building. Investors called nonstop, demanding answers. Stock prices dropped so fast, the numbers barely had time to settle on screen. Inside the company, panic spread like fire. Managers resigned quietly. Employees deleted emails nervously. Board members argued over video calls, pointing fingers, shouting threats. No one defended Evelyn. Not one person stood beside her. She tried to call her lawyer, her financial advisor, even her closest board ally. Every call went unanswered. Her voice cracked with fear, something she had not felt in years. Hours later, Evelyn returned to her mansion, hoping for silence. But even her home felt different. Her security team waited at the gate, avoiding her eyes. Her house staff whispered nervously. Her assistant had already resigned with a single text, "I am sorry. I cannot stay." She went to her study and found piles of documents scattered. Across her desk, notices, freezes, restrictions, collateral reviews. It felt like her empire had been ripped apart in a single afternoon. As she sank into her leather chair, trembling, her phone buzzed again. Another headline. Investigation sources confirm whistleblower is a former janitor. Her vision blurred. Former janitor. Her mind searched desperately. Then it landed on the moment she fired Malcolm Reed in front of everyone. His calm expression, his steady voice, his quiet dignity. She felt a coldness run down her spine. "No," she whispered. But the truth pressed harder. Malcolm Reed, the man she dismissed, the man she humiliated, the man she treated as invisible. He was the one who brought everything down. Meanwhile, across the city, Malcolm sat quietly at Harper's small kitchen table, sipping tea as the news played on a muted television. Harper watched him with a mix of awe and pride. "You did it," she said softly. Malcolm shook his head. "I only showed the truth. The rest was their doing." Agents were now using his evidence as the foundation for the investigation. Every file he collected was being reviewed, confirmed, and used to dismantle the empire Evelyn built on fear and deceit. Harper looked at him. "What do you think she's doing right now?" Malcolm glanced at the TV. The screen displayed Evelyn Crane's face, angry, desperate, and finally powerless. "She is realizing what she never understood," he said quietly. Harper leaned forward. "Which is that the person she believed was nothing was the one who ended everything." Malcolm Reed sat in a sleek office with glass walls overlooking downtown Manhattan. The sunlight reflected off the high-rise windows. But unlike the opulent towers he once cleaned, this space belonged to him in purpose and influence, not arrogance. A federal division director extended a hand. "Your experience in exposing corporate fraud from inside companies is exactly what we need. You see details our conventional auditors miss." Malcolm shook the hand firmly, feeling a sense of calm satisfaction he had never experienced in his previous life. He was not seeking revenge. He was seeking justice, and now he had the platform to ensure it lasted. Stacks of cases sat on his desk, files filled with corruption, embezzlement, and illegal schemes across multiple corporations. Each case was an opportunity to protect innocent employees, to restore fairness where it had been lost. Harper Miles, leaning against the doorframe with a proud smile, watched Malcolm organize his work with precise care. "You earned this," Harper said softly. Malcolm offered a small smile. "We all did what was right. I just made sure it mattered." Across the city, Evelyn Crane faced a reality she had never imagined. Her mansion had been auctioned. Her private accounts were frozen. Crane Industries was in the hands of federal oversight. Legal notices piled high on her dining table. Even her most loyal board members had abandoned her. She moved through her empty apartment, each step echoing like a reminder of the empire she once commanded. The power, wealth, and status that had defined her identity were gone. Evelyn had not been humiliated with cruelty. She had been confronted with the consequences of choices built on arrogance, prejudice, and greed. Malcolm's name now appeared in newspapers and news segments across the country. He was not celebrated for anger or vengeance. His story inspired respect. He represented intelligence, patience, and dignity prevailing over injustice. Harper stood by his side as the first phone calls arrived from other agencies requesting consultation. Malcolm took each call with calm authority, ensuring every decision served fairness, not personal satisfaction. In quiet moments, he reflected on the path that had led him here. He remembered the nights cleaning empty offices, the whispered lessons of his grandmother, the moments of silent observation that allowed him to piece together the truth. He realized that dignity was never something taken. It was something preserved, even under the weight of humiliation. Evelyn, meanwhile, faced her days alone, working a modest job, paying fines, and reconstructing a life without the shields of power and wealth. Her downfall was not vengeance, but the natural consequence of underestimating a man she thought she could erase. Malcolm's journey was complete, not in destruction, but in transformation. He had turned a moment of injustice into a lifelong mission, proving that intelligence, patience, and quiet courage could dismantle corruption and restore dignity to the overlooked. Before moving forward to see how this story finally closes, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Every subscription supports bringing more inspiring stories like this one directly to you. Evelyn Crane moved through the subway station, her uniform of a night cleaner neat but plain. She kept her head low, hoping no one would recognize her past. The city moved around her, indifferent to the rise and fall of fortunes. Across the platform, Malcolm Reed appeared, calm and composed as always. He carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced injustice and transformed it into purpose. Evelyn froze for a moment, her heart racing. She expected anger, mockery, perhaps a harsh word. Instead, Malcolm smiled gently. "Good evening, Miss Crane," he said. His tone carried respect, not malice. It was a greeting of dignity, a silent reminder that he had won without vengeance, only through integrity and patience. Evelyn looked up, meeting his eyes. In that moment, she understood everything. The humiliation, the loss, the collapse of her empire. It was never Malcolm who destroyed her. It was her arrogance, her underestimation, her blindness to the value of respect and honesty. Every choice she had made had led her to this quiet reckoning. Malcolm turned and walked away, leaving Evelyn to reflect in the bustling station. She realized that the man she had tried to suppress had risen far above her, not with cruelty, but with justice. Her life now served as a lesson on dignity, humility, and the power of intelligence, combined with patience. The subway rattled on around her, but Evelyn's mind was still. The world had changed, and she could only watch as someone she had dismissed now embodied everything she had lost. Malcolm's story had not ended with revenge. It had ended with triumph. If this story moved you, make sure to like and subscribe so you do not miss what comes next.